a monitoring committee comprising of senior officials who undertook an in-depth assessment in the whole matter of procurement of drugs, other medical consumables, and as well as biomedical equipment. The reason for this exercise was to assess the exact needs of our patients, given that we were in a situation of lockdown and the closing of international borders, and also to ensure that emergency medications, routine medications, vaccines, and other essential drugs are available in sufficient quantity at all times to cater for our patients in all our health institutions. Mr. Speaker, sir, our proactive action resulted in the availability of all medications in our health institutions, as well as in the private sector. In fact, at no point of time, there was a shortage of any drugs. The House should also note that during our vaccination campaign, carried out as an outreach exercise, more people wanted to avail to the vaccine. My ministry has been able to airlift an additional stock of 62,000 vaccines from Biocom of a total value of around 15 million rupees through direct procurement to meet the requirements of our fellow citizens. This was also done as an emergency procurement, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you know, most of our pharmaceutical drugs are imported, and being given that the borders were closed, it was very difficult to get all the items required in sufficient quantity and in time. It was therefore imperative for my ministry to look out for practical solutions to ensure that the pharmaceutical products needed were made available. Mr. Speaker, sir, the COVID-19 pandemic, the invisible enemy, created an unprecedented situation with uncertainty worldwide. We had to plan our supplies for pharmaceutical products for at least 6 months. In the circumstances, my ministry had no other alternative than to have recourse to emergency procurement procedures to ensure that the stock of drugs is replenished at its earliest. These initiatives were taken in line with the Directive 44 issued pursuant to Section 7 of the Public Procurement Act 2006 on 19th March 2020 and the Section 21 of the Public Procurement Act 2006. Mr. Speaker, sir, concurrently, actions were taken to proceed with the annual tender exercise for the procurement of the pharmaceutical products, for which tender documents have already been submitted to the Central Procurement Board by the end of May 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, from March 11 till date, an amount of 93,592,919 rupees has been spent for the purchase of pharmaceutical products by way of emergency procurement. I'm tabling details regarding local importers to whom contracts for emergency procurements were awarded, purchase prices and the quantum thereof, and dates of purchase of the drugs. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to payments for the emergency procurement of drugs, these are being processed and will be completed by the end of this financial year.
Mr. Speaker, can I ask the Minister, on how many occasions did the Ministry have recourse to emergency procurement, and will he give a full list of the members of the evaluation committee?
Can you repeat the question, please? How?
On how many occasions did the Ministry have recourse to emergency procurement, and will he give a list, a full list of the members of the evaluation committee? each emergency
So,
procurement
Mr.
exercise.
Speaker, sir, I'll answer first the first part of the question, how the ministry has been procuring drugs as an emergency basis. This is happening both at the hospital level and at the ministry level. At the hospital level, whenever there is a shortage of drugs, especially emergency drugs, that is being done there, and the evaluation committee also is being done at the hospital level. This exercise has been conducted for many years, and it is still. And the aim of this exercise is to ensure that drugs are always available for the public and for everybody who's attending the hospital. Now, the second part of the question, the members attending the evaluation committee, at this moment I don't have it, but I'm going to table the members of the evaluation, including those sitting in the evaluation committee at the hospital level, as well as the ministry level. Now, the evaluation committee for drugs, it will depend on which drugs you are procuring. For example, somebody working in the anesthesiology department will be, he should be sitting in that committee, but concerned comparing to somebody we have issues to other drugs, to drugs that concerns antibiotics, for example. So it's a long list, so I'll definitely table the list of all the members sitting on the evaluation committees.
In one word, you couldn't reply to the question I put to you. Can I come to the second question? Will the minister confirm to this House that there is one particular supplier who submitted his bid without any details of sourcing or standard? Can he tell me who is that particular supplier? His bid without any detail of sourcing or standard?
You have to, Mr. Speaker, sir, the honorable leader of opposition has to submit it so. The ministry is going to follow all the procedures. How can anybody, just without pointing the names, saying that the medication was not up to the standard? That is, the committee has to decide. In the committee, there is not only one person. It's a group of persons that's sitting in the committee. It's the whole committee has to take that decision. And now, the honorable leader of opposition is going to point one person who is supposed to submit, who are supposed to have drugs that is not inappropriate. I think that he has to submit me the names, he has to submit me the drug as well, and then we can confirm whether these drugs or the suppliers of this medicine, they are not appropriate.
Will he confirm to the House that the bid of this particular supplier was rejected by the evaluation committee, but was subsequently maintained by higher levels? Can he confirm that?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the leader of opposition is just mixing issues. What has to do with the high-level committee? The high-level committee was meant to make sure that the COVID situation is being managed properly. The evaluation committee will do the work. If the evaluation committee rejected any supplier for any substandard drugs, it's rejected. You've given the answer. You've given appropriate answer for this, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I will give him the name of this non-compliant bidder, High Perform. I don't know whether he's heard of this company, owned by one Mr. Ashwin Bandhan, has been selected when it was found to be non-compliant by the evaluation committee. And I can submit to you observation made by the principal pharmacist. Yeah. And I don't know whether he's aware of the amount disbursed to that to High Perform. Would you like me to read? Let me read. In the absence of the above information, no technical evaluation of the offers can be carried out, and as such, the efficacy and safety of the pharmaceutical products cannot be ascertained. The source of supply as to whether the drugs are being procured from a duly registered wholesaler manufacturer is not specified in the pro forma invoice. Is he aware of this? The pharmacopoeial standard of the products on the pro forma advice is not mentioned. The certificate of pharmaceutical products, nor the certificate analysis has been submitted to ascertain the quality of the products. Even that company doesn't have a certificate of pharmaceutical products to move into international commerce? And can I impress upon the House and tell the Minister that that company has not complied with basic World Health Organization good manufacturing products? And I will lay on the table of the Assembly the comments made by the principal pharmacist of the procurement unit, Mr. Bohuran.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I totally confuse the Honorable Leader of Opposition. Mr. Speaker, sir,
Honorable Leader.
I'll repeat it. He is totally confused. I'll maintain that. Why I'm saying so? He's just confused about the products, medications, and what any company has supplied. There is something called medical equipment and medical products in terms of medicine, drugs. So try not to make confusion. I'll just highlight the House. 4 products. If you buy any PPEs or you buy any mask, in Mauritius, we don't have any agency who can tell you whether these PPEs, these masks, are up to certain standard. It's not only in Mauritius. In so many places around the world, we can't give any assessment of that. For this, I'm going to admit. But as far as the medications is concerned, not a single medication has been procured from the said company that the Honorable Leader of Opposition has mentioned.
Press upon the Minister and upon the House that what the Minister either is misleading the House or is lying through his teeth. I can submit documents in respect of medication purchased from that company.
I'm sure that I would like to have the documents that has been supplied.
Okay, we'll submit.
You submit, Mr. Speaker, sir, once you submit and then we'll...
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I would
Yes,
advise you, listen to my ruling. Listen to my ruling. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, what is happening now? I'm giving a ruling. Listen to my ruling. I will help you. Every document you would submit, make sure it is authenticated. Go ahead.
Now, Mr. Speaker, we all know that the gentleman concerned, Hyperpharma, I don't know whether the Minister, that he's been selling his products way above the price quoted to more than 2,200%, and I can submit figures for that. I don't know whether the Minister is aware in respect of specific drugs. Can I quote? Let me, lignocaine, for example, at more than 170% of the last price paid. Amoxicillin and potassium clavulanate at more than 330% of the last price paid. And the icing on the cake, Mr. Speaker, I'm referring to alloperidol, which is sold at more than 2,200% of the last price paid. And I would come back. Can the Minister submit all the awards of contract given to Hyperpharm?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm already tabled all the procurement of medicine given to all the different companies in this House. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to remind the House that as the prospective sanitary curfew was becoming more and more probable in the wake of COVID-19, members of the other side of the House, and in this case, some elected leader indulged in fear-mongering. Unfounded criticism was on the order of the day. It is indeed very easy to fantasize and anticipate on impending worst-case scenario, and then, as per the habit, absolutely no solutions were proposed during that time. Honorable Duval also indulged in this fear-mongering process. Unfounded remarks on the impending shortage of medicine and protective equipment were broadcast on the very eve of the sanitary curfew. I believe that we all remember that. Just imagine the effect of such... Mr. Speaker, sir.
What is happening here?
Can the honorable
What
member...
is happening? The Minister is giving his reply.
Yes. can the honorable member listen to what I'm saying? Yes, just imagine the effects of such remarks on the Mauritian population. These type of attitudes actually gave rise to panic buying, be it for daily commodities or for medicine. Such remarks were made thousands of Mauritians to rush in pharmacies and to bulk in buy, and at the same time creating artificial shortage of drugs. Did the authors of such remarks think about the gravity of their allegations? Due to their remarks, thousands of Mauritians flocked in pharmacies and outlets at that time. It is true that in the aftermath of the
Honorable
COVID
Shakir
crisis,
Mohammed, let the
there
minister
has-
reply. Don't obstruct proceedings.
there has been, yes, I'm reading. I'm reading. That's true, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm reading.
Carry on, minister.
There's nothing to take note about it. Mr. Speaker, sir, this House is a House where every member has to be given the opportunity to express. Any member think that he is superior or he's going to try to bully, it's not going to happen. It's true. Yes, there has been surge of global demands on medicine and protective of equipment. Now, let me remind the House that on 23rd of April 2020, the World Trade Organization observed that as many as 80 countries introduced export prohibitions and restrictions on certain medicines and protective equipment. Can you imagine what would have happened if we don't procure medicines or protective equipment on emergency? This was the challenge that stood in the government's way, and challenge we were fully aware of, and a challenge that we addressed accordingly. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the ministry, we have a committee that looked about the medicines, the quality of medicines. So far, all medical, daily, thousands of medicines being given to the population. We haven't yet received any complaint about side effects of medications, about quality of medication being given to the population. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, let me remind the Honourable Minister what his Permanent Secretary stated in respect of drugs imported by High Performer which have been supplied to hospitals. In the light of the observation made above, and given that there
You're
will
quoting from which document?
from a document from the Minister of Health.
Is it authenticated?
Why should I authenticate
Don't shout at me!
Why?
Don't
Because
shout
this
at
is a
me!
valid document.
Don't shout at me!
But
Don't
hold on,
shout
this
at
is
the
a valid
chair.
document, so I have no right to quote from a
Don't
valid
shout
document.
at the chair first. Don't shout at the chair, then you answer my question. From which I don't have to argue. You don't have to argue. Yes, you don't have to argue. Reply. Give the reply to my question. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, you're quoting from a document.
Yes,
Which document?
I'm quoting from what the Permanent Secretary has stated in relation to a document.
And I'm asking you a second question.
Which-
Is it authenticated?
It bears the signature of the Permanent Secretary.
It is authenticated.
It bears the Secretary.
Submit
Let
it.
me read first. In the light of the observation made above, and given that there will be a special flight from India around the 8th of May, High Performer, which is already engaged to bringing other drugs on this flight from India, has submitted a pro forma invoice for only 19 of the drugs from the list of portfolio 13, which it can supply at this stage. So which means that it has been supplying medication to the hospital, and medication which is substandard. Substandard medication.
Submit the document so that I can have it.
Also, tell the minister, if he's not aware, that in respect of the box of medication where you have what is known as sodium valproate, in that same box there are other medication, like antibiotics, which means that if somebody purchases that medication, not only will he have a drug which has been prescribed to him, but other drugs in the box. I don't know whether he's aware of this, and this is a problem that has arisen at Jawaharlal Nehru, and complaints have been registered by pharmacists.
Submit
Is he aware
the
of this?
document also.
Yes, all right.
Mr. Speaker, sir, may I assure the honourable member that I'm fully aware of the medications. Now, there were another medication in that. Yeah. At this stage, there is an inquiry being carried out. Mr. Speaker, sir, these medications on
Let the
Friday,
minister reply.
Mr. Speaker, sir, this medication, the report from the dispenser of the pharmacist was reported on Friday. Don't you expect that this should be done, the inquiry should be initiated immediately, and this has been done immediately. The report will come out in the days. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me reassure the House that medications, when were not present in, it was present in different boxes. How, at this point of time, can we say that it is the manufacturer's fault, it is the supplier's fault, it is the dispensing fault, it is the stocking fault? At this point of time, I can't take that responsibility because till the inquiry is not completed and we don't know why another tablets of medications were put in that box, the House should be, we can't blame the supplier of the medication.
Can I tell the minister whether this goes against the best standard? If I refer to World Health Organization, good manufacturing practices. If this is so, it means that we are buying drugs from a company which is not from a company which does not source its drug from a registered manufacturing plant or company. Is he aware of this? Is he aware that this gentleman is bringing drugs in our country which is substandard, which is a danger to the population? Is he aware of this? And being aided and abetted by this government. Is he aware of this?
Mr. Speaker, sir, drugs, whenever they are in our country, in our local markets, there are special authorities to deal about those standards of drug. Whenever there is a drug which is substandard, we have to send it to appropriate WHO agencies to check whether these drugs are of substandard or not. So far, there has been no complaint, and obviously, if ever we have a complaint, we are going to submit it for that scrutiny. Now, I have also to point out, whenever any drugs are being purchased, they have to be in a pro forma invoice, and all that has to be mentioned into that. Where is the drug being purchased? What are the manufacturing companies? Whether they have international agencies, that is BP, that we call the British Pharmacopoeia, all that has to be set. At this point of time, when all those have not been mentioned into that, it's not justified to comment on those drugs that is available, because at the same time, what the leader of the opposition is trying to do is trying to instigate the population that drugs available in our hospitals are not good. This is the attitude, this is the answer that he wants to get from. This is damning, this is shameful, because for years, the government has been supplying free of charge all medications to the population, and that's what he has to say.
High performer meet basic standards as set by other groups. For example, when you procure drugs, does it meet the British Pharmacopoeia, the US Pharmacopoeia, or the EU Pharmacopoeia? Can I, and if it is so, can you submit on the table of the Assembly the certificate of benchmark?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the evaluation committee, the committee of needs, the consumer...
Come on, leader of the opposition! Leader of the opposition! Leader of the opposition, what is happening? You don't shout, and you go by standing order. You put a question and you give reply. Don't shout and don't interrupt proceedings. Keep your manners, parliamentary manners. When the leader of the opposition puts his PNQ, he should listen to reply. This is basic parliamentary manners. You don't have to. You sit up. You tell the speaker to sit up. You tell and you are. And you are. Sitting for some minutes.
Be laid on the table of the Assembly so that we have a fair understanding as to the number of contracts that were allocated and whether the other bidders also met standards established by World Health Organization.
Mr. Speaker, sir, at the same time, I would like to highlight the House that there has been donations from many countries. And those donations had come to Mauritius at a point of time when the drugs were required. I would also like to point out that at this time, no one query about where is the supplier, who is the manufacturer of such medication. Now, for the drugs, whoever be the supplier, the manufacturer, and whether this respect the different pharmacopoeia, this has to be met, and I'll assure the House that I'm going to do all the needful, especially for drugs that can be doubtful about their standard.
Can I ask the Minister also whether before the contract was awarded to High Perform, the drugs imported had already been sent to the central warehouse of the Ministry of Health? Can he look into it?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm going to look into it. I'll look down what are the medications that has been supplied and whether these medications are already in our store at the central supply division.
Can I ask the Honourable Minister whether it is one and the same company which will be given the tax holiday rebate in the light of what has been spelled out in the budget? And if it is the one and the same company which also will be entitled to this facility with retroactive effect, can he look into this?
Mr. Speaker, sir, well, this is the financial issues. I think this is not my prerogation to know what would be the tax rebate scheme for those, but I'm surely, definitely, I'm going to liaise with the other ministry to look into that. Thank you.
Will the Minister state whether it is one and the same company which will enter into a partnership with Dr. Pankaj Vadwa, and the gentleman has a manufacturing pharmaceutical product in India? I would like to know whether they've gone into a partnership, and this partnership will be entitled to funding from the Mauritius Investment Corporation.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think the Honourable Leader of Opposition is just foreseeing what's going to happen in the future, but I can't do any such predictions. So far, I'm not aware of any name that the Honourable Leader of Opposition has mentioned. Neither am I aware of any partnership going on. So let time come and tell us what's going to happen.
The Honourable Member.
Before you take the floor, let me remind you that you need to signify that documents you propose today, you've laid on the table of the Assembly, that they are true copies of documents with the purport to be. Now you continue with the last question.
Will the Honourable Minister state to the House whether the the sole proprietor, director of Hyperform, is also a member of the pharmacy board?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm not aware who is the director of the Hyperform, but I can give you the names and I'll table the names of the members of the pharmacy board. I'll table that, and then I don't know who is the director of the pharmacy.
Time over.
Motion.
Motion.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
Mr. Speaker, second.
The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it.
Statement by Minister.
Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that the report of the Secretary General of the United Nations on the implementation of the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 73/295 was released last Friday. The House will be aware that on 22nd May 2019, the United Nations General Assembly adopted by an overwhelming majority of 116 votes to 6, Resolution 73/295 to give effect to the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice of 25th February 2019 on the legal consequences of the separation of the Chagos Archipelago from Mauritius in 1965. In that resolution, the UN General Assembly inter alia affirmed, in accordance with the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, that the Chagos Archipelago forms an integral part of the territory of Mauritius, and demanded the United Kingdom to withdraw its colonial administration from the Chagos Archipelago unconditionally within a period of no more than 6 months, that is, by 22nd of November 2019. The General Assembly also called upon all member states to cooperate with the United Nations to ensure the completion of the decolonization of Mauritius as rapidly as possible, and to refrain from any action that will impede or delay the completion of the process of decolonization of Mauritius, in accordance with the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice and Resolution 73/295. The General Assembly equally called upon the United Nations and all its specialized agencies, as well as all other international, regional, and intergovernmental organizations, to recognize that the Chagos Archipelago forms an integral part of the territory of Mauritius, to support the decolonization of Mauritius as rapidly as possible, and to refrain from the impeding that process by recognizing or giving effect to any measure taken by or on behalf of the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory. The General Assembly further requested the Secretary General of the United Nations to submit a report at its 74th session on the implementation of the resolution, including any actions taken by the United Kingdom and other member states. Mr. Speaker, sir, the report of the Secretary General reproduces the information provided as at 18th of May 2020 by Argentina, Australia, Azerbaijan, Mauritius, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States, as well as the Food and Agriculture Organization, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, and the Universal Postal Union on the implementation of Resolution 73/295. The United Kingdom, the United States, and Australia have basically reiterated the positions they had respectively taken at the International Court of Justice. Argentina, the Russian Federation, and Azerbaijan have joined Mauritius in expressing the view that the United Kingdom must comply with the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice and the United Nations General Assembly resolution. For their part, the United Nations bodies such as the Food and Agriculture Organization and the Universal Postal Union, as well as the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, have indicated that they are taking the necessary steps to implement the UN General Assembly resolution in their activities. In his report, the Secretary General has also indicated that the designation of the Chagos Archipelago has been modified on the maps produced by the UN Secretariat in line with General Assembly Resolution 73/295. This is most significant, as I announced on 25th of May 2020. In the new world map, number 4170, revision 18 of 20th of February 2020, as published by the Office of Information and Communications Technology, Geospatial Information Section, the Chagos Archipelago is labeled as part of the territory of the Republic of Mauritius. This is without any particular caveat or limitation. In previous versions of the map, the Chagos Archipelago was labeled as Chagos Archipelago / Diego Garcia, with 2 asterisks which read as follows, I quote, appears without prejudice to the question of sovereignty, unquote. The change made to the maps produced by the UN Secretariat confirms the United Nations recognition of the sovereignty of Mauritius over the Chagos Archipelago. It also constitutes confirmation of the illegality of the so-called British Indian Ocean Territory under international law and of the United Kingdom's purported administration of the Chagos Archipelago. I should point out that the new map contains some errors in respect to the names of some of our islands, and we have taken steps to request the Secretariat to make the necessary corrections. In his observations, the Secretary General notes that since the adoption of Resolution 73/295, communications between Mauritius and the United Kingdom have remained open. In this regard, he encourages the 2 countries to continue the dialogue in the hope of resolving the matter in a spirit of constructiveness and collaboration. I am tabling copies of the UN Secretary General's report and the new world map produced by the United Nations Secretariat. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to thank the United Nations Secretary General for his report and for the modification made to maps produced by the United Nations Secretariat. I express the hope that other map producers will now be able to revise their own maps to reflect the new situation. I also thank the Food and Agriculture Organization and the Universal Postal Union and the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights for the active steps they are taking. This will certainly encourage other organizations to follow suit. I would also like to express our deep appreciation to Argentina, Azerbaijan, and the Russian Federation for their support to the implementation of General Assembly Resolution 73/295. At the same time, I am bound to express my disappointment that the United Kingdom continues to flout the authority of the International Court of Justice and the General Assembly. It has shown no willingness to engage with Mauritius on the specific issue of the completion of its decolonization process. That the United Kingdom should have withdrawn its unlawful administration from the Chagos Archipelago by 22nd of November 2019 was a legitimate expectation of the international community and would have been a decent act by a country that claims to be committed to the rule of law and support for international institutions. We are also disappointed that the United States and Australia continue to support the United Kingdom's unlawful occupation of the Chagos Archipelago, in spite of the clear conclusions of the International Court of Justice and the unambiguous provisions of the UN General Assembly resolution. Equally disappointing is the Australian position, which asks the General Assembly not to act on the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. Mr. Speaker, sir, the continued unlawful administration by the United Kingdom of the Chagos Archipelago is a manifest illegality, as is the marine protected area which the United Kingdom purportedly established around the Chagos Archipelago. The United Kingdom is an illegal occupier of our territory, much as South Africa was an illegal occupier of Namibia after the 1971 advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. This prevents Mauritius from implementing a program for the resettlement of its nationals, in particular those of Chagosian origin in the Chagos Archipelago. As the House is aware, Mauritians of Chagosian origin were forcibly removed by the United Kingdom from the Chagos Archipelago in blatant violation of their basic human rights and have so far not been able to return to the birthplace. We have all watched over the past weeks as the Black Lives Matter protests remind us of our deep concerns as to historic wrongs in relation to race and slavery. The continued occupation of the Chagos Archipelago inscribes itself in these historic wrongs, and I express the hope that the United Kingdom and the United States will take steps to bring this wrong to an end, to allow those who wish to return to their homes to do so, and to allow Mauritius to enjoy the potential benefits offered by that part of its own territory. As the government of Mauritius has affirmed on several occasions, it cannot be expected to work with the UK government for the delivery of a purported £40 million support package said to be aimed at improving the livelihoods of Mauritians of Chagosian origin, where that package is premised on the United Kingdom's continued illegal occupation of the Chagos Archipelago. I once again urge the United Kingdom to comply with its obligations under international law, as clearly set out in the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice of 25th February 2019 and General Resolution 73/295, and terminate its unlawful administration of the Chagos Archipelago. Mauritius is conscious of the security concerns expressed by the United Kingdom and the United States, but considers that such concerns cannot justify the United Kingdom's continued unlawful administration of the Chagos Archipelago. The more so, since Mauritius has time and again expressed its willingness to enter into a long-term arrangement with the United States, or, if needed, with the United States and the United Kingdom in respect of defense facility on Diego Garcia. Government unreservedly condemns all actions that impede the completion of the decolonization of Mauritius and that support the United Kingdom's continued colonization of part of the territory of Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, government will continue to spare no efforts to ensure the full implementation of UN General Assembly Resolution 73/295 so that Mauritius can effectively and fully exercise its sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago. The House may rest assured that government remains unwavering in its commitment to pursue all political, legal, and diplomatic avenues to achieve the completion of the decolonization process of Mauritius and to enable our citizens of Chagosian origin to fulfill their aspiration to return to the Chagos Archipelago. Mauritius will be unstinting in its efforts to implement the rule of law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Big Bill, second reading.
Honorable Dano.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. First and foremost, I would like to commend the budget 2020-2021 presented by the Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, Development, Dr. Honorable Ranganaden Pairayachi. This budget, 2020-2021, bears testimony that this government is fully committed to establish a launchpad geared towards the economic resilience, protecting and sustaining small businesses, saving jobs, creating new opportunities, addressing inequalities, building investors' confidence, and above all, creating an economy of life. Mr. Speaker, sir, several countries in the world are still struggling with high death tolls and increasing number of cases and a prolonged lockdown. With the bold and prompt measures undertaken by our government under the able leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, we have successfully flattened the curve. This was even evidenced through international reports and indexes. Most recently, in a report of Business Today, we have been qualified among the top nine countries who have well managed the crisis. We won one battle, but the war still has to be fought. As we gradually reopen our economy, borders, and get back to the new normal, it is now time for a reality check. And it is now that aftermath of this storm, we will be felt, but let's be assured that we are under steady recovery mode. Mr. Speaker, sir, at this point, it is important to mention that many economies in the world have encompasses all the support and assistance for COVID-19 crisis in their annual budget, and thus is going through massive cut down in benefits, development, and social needs. However, our government, with the expertise of Dr. Honorable Ranganaden Pairayachi, has met not less than a miracle. Mr. Speaker, sir, this 2021 budget will be written in history. If we have to list down all the assistance and support, as well as all the measures undertaken by various ministries and agencies, we can say that this year we have presented two budgets, one fully focused on combating of the COVID-19 crisis, and the second budget, the present one, which we focus on continuity and la relance économique in a post-COVID environment. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are now called upon to re-engineer our lives. What seemed unthinking a few months ago is now the obvious. We are today rethinking and adapting ourselves to the new normal. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, my first year of my intervention will be geared toward the theme of sustainability. While elaborating on sustainability, it is essential to mention that the concept of sustainability aims at striking the right balance between economic, social, and environment. With the COVID-19 situation, we have all learned our lessons. We have seen that local sustainability is of utmost importance. In a period of restricted imports, we have learned that self-sufficiency and local production is the key. Building resilience of local food system will be critical to averting any future shortages and to ensure food security. Mr. Speaker, sir, with the rapid evolution, the global economy has drastically shifted from the agriculture to manufacturing and services sector. In the strive to achieve success in these sectors, many countries have left behind the agricultural sector. However, in the recent years, there has been a paradigm shift, and many countries in the world are going back to the basics. If we analyze the global landscape, we'll find that superpowers such as United States, China, India, France have invested massively and have dedicated an important segment to agriculture. These countries have resolved that investment in agriculture is a must, and that as a need to compensate the tremendous contribution of this sector to the economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 2 has laid much emphasis on food security and agricultural sustainability. The steering committee of this specific goal has urged all member states to give a great assistance to food producers, farmers, to increase investment in agriculture, infrastructure, and technology for sustainable agriculture. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Mauritian economy was once entirely dependent on the agricultural sector. And today, after going through the COVID-19 crisis, we need to go back to the basics. We therefore need to reorganize our resources, be it capital, human, research and development in the agricultural sector. In light of the above, I wish to highlight that numerous action has already been undertaken to implement these practices in Mauritius. One of these initiatives include the setting up of a state-of-art marché à l'encan at Wouton. This national wholesale market will improve the handling of fruits, vegetables, both post-harvest and for onward sales. It will also be fully compliant with all existing relevant legislation, agricultural and food standards. Mr. Speaker, sir, to top up on the solid foundation already laid by the government, a series of laudable initiatives has been undertaken in the budget 2020-21 for the agricultural sector. These measures are focused on creating a conducive environment and is providing an enabling framework to ensure self-sufficiency and thus food security. Mr. Speaker, sir, the total imports is worth around 200 billion USD, out of which 80%, that is approximately 36 billion USD, is for the importation of food. These figures clearly indicate that there is a demand on the market, and that in view to meet this demand, local farmers will have a guaranteed market. However, the challenges remain the economies of scale, mechanization, efficient land use, price control, and market intelligence. These challenges have been assessed, and consequently, appropriate measures have been announced by Honorable Minister of Finance during his budget speech. First, the introduction of a national agri-food development program will promote farm-to-fork concept, and this shall limit the imports of food and thus promoting local production, distribution, and consumption. Secondly, the widening of the scope of the AMB and Small Farmers Welfare Fund shall tackle the challenges and unlock potential of Mauritius towards becoming self-sufficient. Thirdly, given that Mauritius has a restricted land surface, optimal land use is therefore of utmost importance. To this effect, the establishment of the land bank shall ensure that land is used and occupied in an efficient and optimal manner. There are many elements of traditional farming knowledge that, if coupled by the latest scientific knowledge, can support productive food system through sound, sustainable soil, land, water, nutrient, and pest management. To this effect, this budget is catering for loan scheme by the Development Bank of Mauritius in view to assist farmers and planters and foster innovation. To recall, up to 5 million under the new agricultural loan scheme to assist planters to adopt new cultivation techniques, up to 1 million rupees under the mechanization loan scheme for acquisition of machinery and farm equipment, up to 1 million under the seeds and seedling loan scheme to encourage investment in seeds and seedling production, up to 5 million rupees under the agro-industry loan scheme to encourage investment in transformation, processing, packaging of agricultural produce. Mr. Speaker, sir, when we look back, we have come a very long way. We have worked on the legacy of our forefathers, tried basic mechanization, and today we're exploring the avenues of smart agriculture. When we read this budget, we can see the vision of the government to move towards agribusiness. This vision is the one of our Prime Minister. It is important for this House to know that the vision for smart agriculture dates back when our Prime Minister was then Minister of Agriculture in 2002 and has established the Small Planters Welfare Fund to give planters a recognition. And today, we know that they are assisting the farmers. Mr. Speaker, sir, in this modern era, many youth are drifted away from the working in the soil and prefer white-collar jobs. But the landscape has changed, and it has changed a lot. For instance, in the US, the top managers in multinational have reinvented themselves and are today now farmers. The synergy between traditional farming and innovation have graduated this sector into a dynamic and innovative sector. We are today speaking of hydroponics, aquaponics, aeroponics, vertical farming, dual and triple use farming, permaculture, and organic farming, to name a few. And all these techniques mentioned are successfully running in all corners of our island. This new avenue, coupled with all the incentives provided by our government, are hence opening an indefinite number of opportunities for our people who wish to reinvent themselves into agro-entrepreneurs. Mr. Speaker, sir, I therefore recommend that in collaboration with SME Mauritius, Ministry of Agriculture, the DBM and all relevant agencies, that a caravane pour l'entrepreneuriat et l'innovation agricole shall be organized all over the island to sensitize, educate, and assist the agro-entrepreneur to kickstart and boost the business activities. Mr. Speaker, sir, the concept of self-sufficiency is not restricted to agro-industry, but it is cutting across concept and touches several other sectors, one of them being the blue economy. One key measure for the blue economy, which will help tremendously contribute towards our self-sufficiency, is the introduction of incentive in view to promote inland aquaculture and the introduction of assistance by the Mauritius Investment Corporation to joint venture engage in fishing or whole value chain. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the same vein of sustainability, I will now talk on the theme which has the direct impact on our environmental footprint. I would like to speak about the green and clean energy sector. During the lockdown, we have all seen the effect of heavy consumption on Mother Earth and how reduction in the consumption has resulted in miraculous outcome. The ozone layer above the Arctic Ocean has recovered, the Himalaya range was visible from a 200-kilometer distance, and blue sky was visible in Shanghai. All this to demonstrate that we all have an ecological footprint and how it impacts on the environment. A responsible government is one which cares for its environment. Mr. Speaker, sir, for several years, especially the Labour PMSD government has done nothing regarding the implementation of green energy measures. The famous Maurice Hill-Durab brand was an overpromise, an under-delivered dream, or rather I should say, an undelivered dream of a green and clean Mauritius. On the other hand, it is under this government that concrete action was taken in this direction, and a series of key measures were introduced to promote green and clean energy. These actions include the publication of a roadmap for renewable energy method and the setting up of Mariner, among others. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mauritius is also a proponent to the UN SDG 7 for clean and green energy. Our government is fully committed toward the shifting to a cleaner and greener source energy. We therefore reaffirm our sustainable development goal by announcing a 40% share of local renewable energy by 2030. In addition, households and SMEs shall be empowered to engage in production of renewable energy sources, namely through a 10 megawatt renewed medium-scale distributed generated scheme. Mr. Speaker, sir, in several states in the world, there has been major cutdowns, and in fear of many exponential increases in taxes and limitation of benefits. Our government has cut down, but it has gone down internally. A reduction in per diem, overseas travel, duty-free benefit, and a uniform 10% decrease in all public sector expenses. Many people on the other side of the House were speculating that the end-of-year bonuses will be waived off for the 2020, while others were speculating that the VAT would increase. But none of these sanctioning measures were announced. On the contrary, all social benefits were maintained and even upgraded in some circumstances. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government firmly believes in the ethos of responsibility, care, and dignity for every citizen. We believe that utmost gratitude should be given to our elderly, who have contributed massively to the Mauritius we have today. It is an inculcation of values that we are giving to our youth and children that they should contribute to ensure that our elderly have a comfortable and decent retirement. Tomorrow, we will also be the beneficiaries of this plan. So we have to adopt the philosophy of planting a seed today, so that tomorrow we could reap a tree and its fruits. Mr. Speaker, sir, despite a situation of crisis, our vision to be a modern, high-income, and diversified economy has not changed. We are the leaders in Africa in several fields, be it in terms of ease of doing business, rule of law, democracy index, good governance, and innovation. This is a position we want to safeguard and consolidate. Additionally, we are continuously on the quest of any untapped potential which we may unlock for the development of new economic pillars. Consequently, the Honorable Minister of Finance has announced the development of a new economic pillar to the Mauritian economy, that is, the pharmaceutical industry. With a series of incentives and key measures announced, Mauritius is poised to be a regional hub for the African region in the pharmaceutical field. Mr. Speaker, sir, while speaking about innovation and new economic pillars, it is essential to mention the establishment of a data technology park at Côte d'Or, which will include 12 specialized multi-sectoral centers, from additive manufacturing to artificial intelligence. This center will be developed in accordance with international best practices and shall include a carbon neutral green certified Tier 4 data center. This technology park shall lay the foundation of an innovative and data-driven economy and create jobs for the future generation. It is noteworthy that this initiative will position Mauritius as an emerging leader in the field of IT for the Africa region. Mr. Speaker, sir, the construction sector has always been a core pillar for the development of a country. Over the last years, Mauritian landscape has changed a lot. We are witnessing a chantier everywhere we are going. This government has shown its resilience, and despite the COVID-19 crisis, we are not backing off of our promises to continue the development and uplifting of our public infrastructures. This government is committed to graduate our motherland to the next level of sophistication. In this optic, the Metro Express project will pursue its journey, and a sum of 5 billion rupees has been attributed for the completion of metro system between Rosehill and QPIP. Mr. Speaker, sir, coming to my constituency, number 17, QPIP and Midlands, with regards to public infrastructure project, I wish to inform the House that the face of the town of QPIP is undergoing and lifting and will soon be rejuvenated with the state-of-the-art infrastructures. In this respect, my colleague, Honorable Stephen Obigadu, and myself have aligned our thoughts and have recommended a master plan. This master plan is being made in collaboration with key stakeholders such as the Land Drainage Authority and shall provide for a dynamic long-term planning for an integrated development action plan. Mr. Speaker, sir, the main artery of the township of QPIP is the Yanpalak bus station, and this bus station was set up in the 1950s and witnessed transit of more than 1,000 people on a daily basis. Since its inception, no major development has been undertaken to at least make the bus station safer to cater for an increasing capacity. But it is this government who have worked for the development of a modern, multi-modern urban terminal in accordance to international standards. The new urban terminal will also act as a catalyst for economic activities in the township and thus promoting creation of jobs, entrepreneurship. We believe that Metro project in itself is an ecosystem and that it will act as a drive to spur entrepreneurship and local businesses. In line with our modern strategy to modernize the transport system, the starting point of the Metro project will be in QPIP. To this effect, the landscape of QPIP is being transformed. As I am speaking, there are mega structures being laid and molded to provide for the foundation of the metro system in QPIP. This government is aiming to graduate the township of QPIP to a second level of sophistication and innovation. Mr. Speaker, sir, being born and brought up in QPIP, I have a very special corner for the heart and legacy of QPIP, and that is the L'Hôtel de Ville de QPIP. It is this government that earmarked a budget of 120 million rupees for the complete restoration and renovation of Hôtel de Ville, which will be completed by the end of this year. Mr. Speaker, sir, last time, Honorable Sinquen mentioned that nothing has been done in QPIP. Well, the development and advances made to the landscape of QPIP is unprecedented. To name a few, the creation of the pillars of the metro system, Hôtel de Ville and largest urban terminal, the township of QPIP is set to the much-desired Ville de Lumière 2.0. The era that the town of QPIP was a dormant and dark town, it has come to an end. That was the era when he was in power, but we have also come to the end of that era. Anyways, I would like to ask him that when he was in power, what has he done? Well, he did nothing. For instance, Hôtel de Ville was not even maintained. I am certain that he's having a lot of confusion with all the diversions that are happening in the town of QPIP. But this is mostly because of the town of QPIP is going under massive transformation. He is in complete disillusion and has lost all notion of the definition of progress and advancement. And I qualify his statement as biased and has misled the House of tainted by bad faith. Had he been a honorable member who hold les cœurs pipiens and les cœurs pipiens at heart, he should have been proud of these developments being brought to the town of Cupid. Mr. Speaker, sir, the majority of people of my constituency join me to express our heartfelt gratitude to our Honorable Prime Minister and also the Minister of Finance for giving due consideration to our hometown. Mr. Speaker, sir, as stated in his budget speech, Dr. Badiachi, I want to conclude, we are in an abnormal situation and that we are not in a normal business. In the same way, even the matter before this House should be treated with an élan de solidarité et de patriotisme, instead of the constant demagogy and unfounded criticism of the opposition. It is with deep concern and regret, I must say, that members of the opposition are not being able to appreciate the extra effort this government is putting to take us out of this crisis. They are allowing their political gears overshadowing their intelligence and their ability to make fair judgment of these initiatives undertaken by our government. If we are unable to commend our measures as the opposition of this House, that they could do would be showing some gratitude as citizens of this motherland. Had they been in power, well, we would have been doomed. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, we think it's time of hardship that we rethink and reinvent ourselves. It is also the time where we come together with all stakeholders to put our minds and efforts together towards rebuilding our economy. Mr. Speaker, it is important to mention that the population gave their verdict and chose this government. They have chosen for continuity despite the crisis. We are pursuing with our promises and our program. Our government had set out a blueprint based on solid foundation of resilience and sustainability to put our economy back on track. But it will take coordinated efforts of everyone to make it a reality. As a member of this August Assembly and as a proud Maurician, I reiterate my commitment to working with all of you to meet this all-encompassing test. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is now or never to stand together. We may be socially distant today, but it is now time to stand together and enshrine the wording of our national anthem. As one people, as one nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I now suspend the sitting for 1 hour.